What's going on, guys? Welcome back to F1 2021 for My Team Career Mode Season 3, Round number 2, the Chinese Grand Prix. So it's the first time we're going to the Chinese Grand Prix in this career mode, so it's going to be interesting. I hadn't done any driving or any practice on this track before jumping. I just jumped straight into qualifying. Have not even driven this track on this game. I had driven it a little bit on F1 2020, but F1 2021, literally my Q1 was my first time driving this track on this game. So yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. We have upgraded our car massively going into this round now. All the upgrades we put on after we got a couple of things to Facility 3 means that we are now the quickest car on paper, but we're still right there with Ferrari at the top. And we've actually got a bit of a gap down to Mercedes and kind of Red Bull and McLaren. So my team and Ferrari, very much the quickest teams at the moment, but I think this is going to be difficult for us because, like I said, this is the first time I've driven this track on this game. Haven't driven the track since F1 2020, and I mean, it's a track that I don't mind, the Shanghai International circuit, but it's definitely not one of my best tracks for sure, as we are very close to Sebastian Vettel there. The AI lately have been really bad with letting you past when you're on flying laps in qualifying. I don't know what that is, but after an update they just get really bad at letting you pass, because Vettel was not on a quick lap there. I'm pretty sure he wasn't anyway. So we had a pretty compromised run at that time, and it's actually really not a good lap time from us. We end up P16 and we only just scraped through to Q2. Nikita Mazepin puts it in P17 ahead of both Aston Martins and both Alfa Romeos. So really good lap from Nikita Mazepin there, or it's just a really bad lap from everyone else, because to be ahead of the Astons and the Alphas, especially the Astons, is very respectable, especially for Mazepin, and he's way ahead of his teammate Mick SCHUMACHER. Q2 went a little bit better. It was definitely a better lap time here. I think I actually went about 6/10 quicker than I did in Q1, so that just shows you that my Q1 lap really wasn't that good. That's why I wasn't really too worried being P16, because it was a massively compromised run, mainly because of Vettel being in my way. We only just make it through to Q3 though. It is P10 for us. We're a 10th quicker than Gasly, so we just about beat him to Q3. No real not disappointing, I guess disappointing, but no unusual, I guess, exits out of Q2. And going on to our Q3 lap, very, very close to one of the Red Bulls, I believe, coming out of the pit lane there to start my lap. Yeah, so maybe that might have compromised me a little bit going into turn 1, but thankfully I just kind of tried to keep it as flat as I could. But yeah, probably did compromise me a little, because I had to go a little bit wider into the corner than I would have hoped, because he was coming out of the pit lane. Not sure who it is, it's either Perez or Giovinazzi, one of the Red Bulls. But yeah, so this lap as well actually would not end up being the best. I end up a little bit wide around this corner here. I mean, it doesn't bother me too much. I'm at least in the top 10, and just to be in the top 10 I'm happy with. Like I said, our car is the quickest now, so strictly speaking we should really be in really the top 4, top 5 respectively with me and Ricardo. But we know that the R&D chart is not the most accurate of things, and well, it's quite accurate, but different tracks are better for different cars, you know. So even though we're the fastest on R&D, we might not be the quickest, because this track, it has quite a lot. I mean, you've got this kilometer-long back straight here, which, yeah, a lot of speed is needed down there. So definitely a quicker track this, but it does have some tighter sections as well. So a relatively balanced circuit, but I would say it's probably more a quicker track as we come across the line. And it's only going to be P10 for us, so we only get P10, and we're actually quite a way down on Guan Yu Zhou. Don't really improve on my Q2 lap, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. Ricardo's put at P4, and Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari is on pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix.
It's time again then for Formula One in Shanghai. Northwest of this thriving city of over 24 million people is a circuit that first featured in the championship calendar back in 2004. And of course played host to Formula One's 1000th World Championship event in 2019. Shanghai International Circuit then, a 16-corner high-speed thrill ride. The long and ever-tightening right-hander at turns 1 and 2 tests a driver's patience, and the flat, open to the elements location tests their skill in a crosswind. 2 DRS zones will assist passing, and overtaking is available into turn 1 and of course down the kilometre-long back straight into the hairpin at turn 14. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
But from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the rundown into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday puts him on pole, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen, Norris, Giovinazzi, Joe and Shaw, Gasly, Bottas, Fernando Alonso and Lundgaard, Ocon, Mazepin, Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll, Tsunoda, Russell, Mick Schumacher and Nicholas Latifi. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Alrighty, so an interesting grid here, going to 5 red lights to the first ever Chinese Grand Prix in this F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, and the lights are out and away we go. We're alongside Guan Yu Zhou and the Mercedes on this 5th row here, and we both get a pretty even start. It's 3 wide up ahead with Giovinazzi and the 2 McLarens of Norris and Verstappen as we bang tyres with Zhou a little bit. We get a warning for a collision, but it is just banging tyres, so shouldn't really be an issue. We just don't want to be doing it too much more often, as then we don't get the best exit out of the next corner. But we're staying behind Guan Yu Zhou going into this braking zone here, and we're going to make sure we dive up the inside of him into this sort of hairpin style corner here, and he's still alongside. We just about managed to get past him, I think, before we get to this very quick left hand long corner, which goes into another very quick and slightly tighter right hander, which then goes into another really tight left hand kind of double apex corner here of these 2 right here, and down into another kind of chicane sort of bit down here. And yeah, we're up into P9, so we've got Zhou off the line, but he's still right there behind us, putting pressure on us, so we have to be careful from him behind. But we will continue along here. We can put the power down fairly early around that corner and just deploy the ERS, get as much power down the straight as we can. As we have a look, you know, you can see Charles Leclerc getting a little bit of a gap on the rest of the field here. It's looking good for him as we go for a big dive on Max Verstappen, the previous race winner. He's all the way down in, well, P9 now that we've got past him, but he's still alongside coming into the final corner, and he's going to brake late. We're going to try and get a little bit of a switchback on him here, get behind him, get the slipstream, deploy the ERS, and we're going to be alongside him, potentially not quite into turn 1, and he just about brakes later and gets the position, and then that we end up quite wide going through turn 1 here. But yeah, nice little battle with Max Verstappen there, but he's a bit further down the order, you know, than you maybe expect him to be, and we actually lose a little bit of pace to him here. We've lost quite a bit of time in these first few laps here, and falling into the clutches of Guan Yu Zhou in the Mercedes. Verstappen and the rest of the grid kind of disappearing off in front of us, and we're going to come in for, well, the pit stop that my team told me to come in for. They did actually want me to go 2 laps longer, but these tyres are really not doing great. The soft tyres don't last long at all on this track. I mean, 4 laps and we come into the pits, but we're coming in quite a bit earlier than everybody else. Nobody else has come into the pits yet. We're the first car into the pits, so this could be good for us. It could also be a mistake. However, I mean, we catch up to the Hasses pretty quickly. They're now right at the bottom of the field. Although Mazepin started up in P16, he is now right down the back with his teammates, and we're going for a nice little move on Mick Schumacher through kind of the double apex corner here. We just want to get past these guys as quickly as we can. It looks like Guan Yu Zhou was the next car to come into the pits. He's just behind Mick Schumacher and is trying to make his way through the order like me, as we go for a move on Nikita Mazepin. Pretty easy one here. We've now got DRS and are just generally quite a bit quicker than the Hasses, so we get that move done. Up ahead of us is now Latifi and Verstappen. So Verstappen has come in for his pit stop, and by this point, lap number 7, most of the top drivers have come in for their pit stops. Most people seem to be going for a 2-stop strategy here, just because the tyre wear is so high here. The soft tyres barely last 4 laps. I mean, they were at like 30-40% after 4 laps, as now we have Max Verstappen going for a move on one of the Mercedes. I reckon that must be Lewis Hamilton there. It's Verstappen versus Hamilton, but it's Mercedes versus McLaren in this universe of ours right now, and he hasn't quite got the move stuck yet there, side by side. And now, actually, there's an Aston Martin pulling along, and it's 4 wide going into turn 1, and Lando Norris, we're actually watching now, kind of backs off a little bit there. Verstappen is just about ahead of Hamilton still, and that is one of the Aston Martins of, I think it's Sebastian Vettel. I'm not 100% sure. I'll be able to tell by his helmet if I can get a closer look, but he's now alongside Lando Norris, but Norris will manage to keep that position. As we are continuing to get through the slower cars who have not pit yet, Nicholas Latifi in the Alfa Romeo, obviously new to Alfa Romeo this season, is getting overtaken by us here down the straight. He's actually not far from his teammate George Russell, who's just ahead here. So Latifi doing a decent job his first year at Alfa Romeo. Of course, he was at Williams before, and Williams are actually a pretty decent midfield team now. Alfa Romeo, unfortunately, are still kind of towards the back of the grid with Haas, but we now go for a move on George Russell, and it's pretty easy. We've got DRS, he doesn't, and yeah, fairly easy overtake on George Russell there. Kind of feel a bit bad for Russell, really, because, you know, he was in Williams, he moved to Alfa Romeo, and now Williams is actually a pretty decent team, and Alfa Romeo really isn't. So I hope George Russell can get a good seat at some point in this mighty career of ours. Next up, another move, this time on Lance Stroll. The Aston Martins are really not faring too well here. Aston Martin really fallen off the pace this season. I mean, they've really been falling off the pace. I mean, season 1 they weren't too bad, but from season 2 they've just really plummeted down the order. Giovinazzi gets a move done on, I believe that is Sebastian Vettel there, and he is up another position trying to make his way through the grid like we all are at the top. And then you've got Sergio Perez. He's got his teammate of Giovinazzi behind him, but now I think he's making a move on, I believe, Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. So it's Red Bull versus AlphaTauri here. But Yuki Tsunoda's going to put up a decent fight. I mean, that AlphaTauri isn't the quickest car. It's nowhere near the Red Bulls. But to be honest, I mean, Gasly's been absolutely outperforming the car. And to be fair, Tsunoda's doing a pretty decent job here too. He's managed to stay alongside Sergio Perez all the way through those last couple of corners, and now Giovinazzi is actually having a look on the inside of his teammate, but he's going to back out of that one. Doesn't really want to get involved, and you know, the wrath of Red Bull. Giovinazzi does not want to see the wrath of Red Bull coming for him there, so he kind of lets Perez go, but then manages to get on the inside of Tsunoda round the next corner, and I think has just about made that move stick. So that's the 2 Red Bulls making up positions there. As we continue on here, we now have Lando Norris in front of us. Guan Yu Zhou still behind us, putting on decent pressure, but we're kind of managing to make a bit of a gap to him. However, we're probably going to get slowed down a bit here, because this group of cars in front of me, we've got some of the quick cars like Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, but you've also got the Aston Martin of Sebastian Vettel in the middle there, who is slowing us down a little bit here, and we just want to try and get past him, but we're in a bit of a DRS train at the moment. And I think you also have the Williams ahead of this group as well, so they're potentially slowing these quicker cars down a little bit here too, as Lando Norris goes for a move on Sebastian Vettel. I believe there's a move going on just ahead as well. That's Hamilton getting past, I believe that would have been Pierre Gasly, might have been Tsunoda, I'm not 100% sure, one of the AlphaTauris anyway. But Lando Norris has managed to get the move done on Sebastian Vettel, and now we're looking to see if we can do anything. We all have DRS here, but I'm just going to absolutely punch the ERS. We've got a good engine, a good Ferrari engine this season in this car, so we're going to dive up the inside of turn 1 on Sebastian Vettel, but he's hanging it around the outside. He's trying to keep that position. He wants to, you know, I mean, he can't really be fighting with us here. He hasn't come into the pits yet, but he's just trying to do as much as he can, but unfortunately he can't quite get the position from us, defend the position from us, and we managed to keep it. as now it's Yuki Tsunoda. So I think it was Yuki Tsunoda that Hamilton just got past on the previous lap or so. Now Lando Norris and myself are catching right up to the back of the Japanese driver. Lando Norris goes for the move on the inside here. I'm catching up with DRS as well because Tsunoda does not have DRS. Both guys are going defensive to the inside. We managed to get alongside Yuki Tsunoda. There may have been a little bit of contact with myself and Tsunoda around that corner there, but we managed to just about get past him. And now we're trying to just follow Norris through here because we're not quite as quick as these guys on this track. I mean, my pace is better here than it was in quali, but as I have a little bit of a look at the inside of Norris, but can't quite do anything just yet. And this pack really getting slowed up now by, I believe it's the two Williams at the front of this train. There might be an Alpine in there somewhere as well. Just a lot of cars, big DRS train at the moment, and we're just trying to make our way through, and that's why we are managing to keep with, you know, Norris and Verstappen and Hamilton. And to be honest, our pace here actually isn't too bad. Race pace is pretty decent, pretty much on par with what we need it to be. As we get very close to the back of Lando Norris, that could have been a deadly crash there. And we watch further ahead, just up on the front, on the back straight, sorry. Max Verstappen has made a move on, I think that is one of the Williams of, I think that's Fernando Alonso, perhaps? It's one of the Williams anyway, but he is fighting back. I'm not sure which one it is, because both Williams right next to each other here, as they're about to go 3 wide through this next corner here. It's actually, yes, it is Fernando Alonso, number 14, and Lando Norris is now side by side with, I believe that is Lewis Hamilton in the lead Mercedes, and both those two managed to get the moves done, as now Lando Norris gone for a move of the inside of Fernando Alonso there, and then we're going to try and get the switch back and make a beautiful round the outside move around here. Just get on the power as soon as we can and get the ERS down as quickly as we can as well to get a lovely move. We're just doing a great job of following Norris through. I'm finding it really difficult to get past at the moment because we're just finding ourselves behind so many slower one-stopping cars. But then Norris has put the power down. He's spun at the hairpin. That has not gone well for Norris at all. He's been doing so well in this race, carving through the field, but he spun off. We were coming into the pits this lap anyway, but it's actually worked out really well for us because the safety car is out with Norris spinning out. I think there was also a little bit of a pile up there as well, as we have a little bit of a look at a replay. This is Lando Norris, just puts the power on at the hairpin and just spins right around. Then you have those three there, actually 4 cars, all kind of bump into each other a bit there. We're watching from Sebastian Vettel's point of view. You've got Alonso, you've got, I think that's Hamilton, and Alonso then reverses into, I believe, Christian Lundgaard. Ocon gets caught up in that as well. There was about 5 cars caught up in that there, just from Lando Norris spinning around. Them all getting a bit flustered with the yellow flag and with Lando spinning around at the hairpin, that, yeah, there's a few collisions there. A couple of people going to have to come in for front wings, but that's actually worked out pretty well for us because we were coming into the pits that lap anyway, and the safety car means that we had a cheaper pit stop there, so that's really worked out well for us. As on the restart here, Charles Leclerc still leading the race. He's on a set of medium tyres and he's just doing a great job. He had a pretty big lead before the safety car, so he's going to try and now keep that, you know, bring that lead back again. As now we're looking at the back of Valtteri Bottas. We're going to go for a nice little dive into this chicane section here, and it's a beautiful dive. Bottas is going to try and hold it on there, but he can't quite do it, and we've got a lovely overtake on the Finnish driver. Really nice move there, just late on the brakes. I just need to make these moves to stick with the guys ahead. As now we have, who is this? I believe this is probably Max Verstappen, is it? I'm not 100% sure. It is one of the McLarens. Anyway, I think that is Verstappen with the white helmet, making a move on one of the Alpines here. They are still side by side coming to the final corner though, and the Alpine is not giving up. I think that might be Christian Lundgaard there. Yes, it is. And now we've got to run on Max Verstappen. He's not managed to get the move done on Lundgaard, as we're going to have a look up the inside of turn 1 on Verstappen. We're going to try and keep it clean here. We don't want to bang tyres. We want to have nice, clean racing. I'm a little bit stuck with Lundgaard ahead of me here, as we're still side by side with Max Verstappen through this whole section here. Beautiful, great great racing here. I just want to try and get on the ERS as quickly as I can. Tuck up behind him. We bang wheels there though, and it's a very, very scary moment. That could have ended in disaster for myself and Verstappen. We've had a couple of tussles last season, especially at Monza, you may remember. We had a bit of an incident with Verstappen at Monza, which gave us, I think, some front wing damage and also some floor damage. So really don't want that to happen again, but the tensions are rising once again here. A little bit of wheel banging there, but some good racing nonetheless. But we're still stuck behind Verstappen, and he really wants to make a move past Lundgaard and get a buffer to me here. So he's going to be able to do that relatively easily because Lundgaard does not have DRS. Verstappen does, going up the inside. We're going to have a look, a very audacious look around the outside, and we're going to go long around the outside. We get a bit of a tag from Christian Lundgaard, but we've managed to get 2 cars round the 1 hairpin, and that is a beautiful move from us. Those two just getting a bit caught up with each other, slowing each other down round the hairpin. We managed to go round the outside, a little bit of a contact from Lundgaard, but thankfully no damage for us. I don't think any damage for him either. As now we have a look at Daniel Ricciardo. Haven't had a look at him a whole lot this race, but he's doing a pretty decent job here. Just got the move done on Antonio Giovinazzi, so he's making his way up the order, and I believe he is now in P4. So he started P4, he's still in P4. So Ricciardo doing a pretty good job here with us trying to make our way through the order. As it's now Esteban Ocon in front of us after we got past Lundgaard and Verstappen. Lundgaard may have actually had some damage because he is no longer in this train behind us, unless he was just coming into the pits anyway. As we go for a move on Esteban Ocon, we've got the DRS. It's a relatively easy move, although Ocon does try to somewhat keep it around the outside but can't quite do it. He's not got the grip, he's on the hard tyres, we're on the mediums, and we are a quicker car anyway, so get a pretty easy done move on him there. And now the other Frenchman of Pierre Gasly, another pretty simple move. He's got no DRS, we do have DRS, and we can just blast down the back straight here into the hairpin and get that position fairly easily. And now we have a beautiful little battle here. This is the battle for second place. You saw Charles Leclerc up in the lead. He's got a pretty decent gap, but it is actually Sergio Perez in second, Carlos Sainz third, and Daniel Ricciardo there sniffing around in P4. Sainz is trying to get a move on Sergio Perez for P2. He wants to make this a Ferrari P2. Remember, Ferrari haven't won a single race in this career mode of ours so far. Well, it looks like they're on for a pretty decent win here today. And Sainz wants to make it a 1-2, but Perez has managed to keep the position for now, and he's actually now, Sainz is under fire from Daniel Ricciardo. It'll be awesome for Ricciardo to get his first podium with the team, and only his second race for us. That would be such a good one, because I think we are a little bit, I mean, you can see us in the background, but I don't think we're going to be really challenging for a podium here, unless these guys really slow each other down. But Sainz and Ricciardo still side by side, going through this whole section here. They're going to go through the quick, long left-hand corner, side by side as well, and then they're going to be side by side through the next section too. Not the best camera angle here, a little bit of an onboard from Carlos Sainz, but unfortunately we can't quite see Ricciardo, but I think there he is. He's just about managed to get ahead of Sainz, and that puts Ricciardo into P3. He's in a podium position. There's only a few laps left. I think this is lap 24 or lap 26? I can't really tell from my preview. But Sainz is not giving up this position easily. He's now attacking Ricciardo once again here. Giovinazzi is catching up in the Red Bull as well. Perez is probably breathing a fresh, what's the word? Breathing a sigh of relief, fresh air. I don't know what to say, but he's kind of running off in P2 a little bit here. But then Hamilton is getting into even more trouble. He's been sandwiched once again, this time by, I believe that is Lando Norris in the McLaren, and one of the Alpines there. I think that's Christian Lundgaard once again, actually. He's been sandwiched there, and he's actually going to have to come into the pits. So Hamilton, once again, not going to be scoring any points this race. 2 no-point finishes for him. Not going well, as Lando Norris is out of the session with a mechanical failure. Really unfortunate for him, especially after that spin. I mean, things did not go right for him in this race, as we're going for a move on Antonio Giovinazzi for P5 on the road, and we've just about got it done round the hairpin. And now we're going on to the penultimate lap, the second to last lap of the race. Can we catch up to Ricciardo and Sainz and Perez and potentially go for a podium here? Well, Sainz and Ricciardo have managed to catch up to Perez after they stopped squabbling, and Sainz is now going back for the move on Sergio Perez. He wants this 1-2 for Ferrari after not having a win for the whole career mode. I mean, they're destined to get the win with Leclerc here, but Sainz wants to make it a 1-2, and he's got that position. And now Ricciardo is going for a move on Sergio Perez. He wants that final podium position. He'd love a podium position for his second race for us, but at the moment he's not managed to get it done. But the man of the hour for sure is this man right here. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari is going to come through to win the Chinese Grand Prix. It's the first win for Ferrari in this entire career mode of ours. This is the 42nd race of this My Team career mode, and it's Ferrari's first win of, I'm sure, many. Charles Leclerc wins. Carlos Sainz comes home in second for a Ferrari 1-2. They go from not winning a single race this whole time to a 1-2 the first time out. And Sergio Perez ends up with P3, Ricciardo P4, and we end up P5.
It's a performance to be proud of from our Chinese Grand Prix winners today. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
Ferrari are at it again, an excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
So this is definitely awesome to see, and I want to see more of it. Charles Leclerc wins the Chinese Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz in second for a Ferrari 1-2. I can't believe we haven't seen this yet. I can't believe we haven't seen a win for them yet up until this point. Literally, we're 42 races in, and this is the first win for Ferrari. Sergio Perez comes home in P3. Ricciardo P4. He does a very good job. We get up to P5. Giovinazzi P6. Max Verstappen all the way down in P7. So, yeah, not great from him considering he won the last race by a considerable margin. Gasly, very good in P8 with Ocon P9, and I think that was Christian Lundgaard in P10. So another decent enough run for Alpine here, getting in the points. Charles Leclerc moves to the top of the drivers' standings, knocking Max Verstappen off the block. He's actually got a pretty decent lead of, I think, 11 or so points there. Perez stays second, we're fourth, and Perez stays third, sorry, we're fourth, and Ricciardo is up to sixth. And then, yes, some little changes down the bottom of the grid, but they don't have any points anyway. Ferrari moved to the top of the Constructors' Championship, knocking McLaren to second. Red Bull stay in third. We move up to fourth, displacing Alpine, who are in fifth. AlphaTauri sixth. Williams moved to seventh. Williams are now ahead of Mercedes, and after 2 rounds, Mercedes still haven't scored a single point. Let that just sink in for a second. Mercedes haven't scored a single point in 2 rounds. I think that's one way to end this episode for sure. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.